Hi everyone, my name is Chris, and welcome to my board game guides. Today, I'm going to do a quick guide on how to play the game Patchwork by Uwe Rosenberg. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is the board setup for Patchwork. Now there's a couple things that you need to know because there looks like to be a lot of pieces, but it's pretty easy to understand. This right here is your game board. It's basically what you'll be using to knit all these fabric pieces together because this game is all about taking pieces of fabric and putting them on your board and stitching together something really wonderful, something really unique, something that only you can do. We have the time board here. So the time board consists of your markers to show which position you're in. There's some button icons for them. I'll explain what those do. And there are also some one-by-one patch pieces on there, and I'll explain what those are. There are fabric pieces. So these are all the fabric pieces right here. Every fabric piece will have a cost associated with them whenever you want to acquire one. And then this right here is the pawn, which lets you know which fabric pieces are up for grabs. Finally, there are buttons here. And buttons are used as a sort of currency to buy fabric pieces. So the object of Patchwork is to have the most buttons in your board at the end of the game and to have the fewest empty spaces on your Patchwork board. So the way it works is that you count up how many buttons you have, and then you count up how many empty spaces you have and multiply the number of empty spaces by 2. Subtract that from your button total, and that will be your final score for the game. So, very obviously, this game requires that you balance between acquiring buttons and filling up as many spaces on your board as you possibly can. Now, every player starts out with 5 buttons, and the first player, let's say it's me, will decide which pieces of fabric to buy. So you place your pawn in front of the 2x1 space, and the first 3 pieces of fabric are what is available for you to get. Now, every piece of fabric has a cost, as I mentioned before. There is a button cost and a time cost. So let's say I wanted to get this piece of fabric. As you can see, I would have to pay 3 buttons and 4 units of time. So I would pay 3 buttons, push those back to the bank, and then move my piece 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you decide which of the pieces of fabric to acquire, you'll notice that some of them have buttons on them. That means they have the potential to generate you income throughout the game. So let's say that's what we do. We decide to buy this piece for 3 buttons and 4 time. 3 buttons. So then we place it on our board, and let's place it right here, just like that. And then 4 time. We move up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And then we place the pawn here to show that we've claimed that piece. Now what that means is that our opponent can choose between one of these 3 pieces of fabric. And let's say he chooses this one. He places 3 buttons, puts it on his board, and he moves his piece up 2 spaces. Well, then you check to see who is behind. Well, right now, green player's behind, and I'm yellow player. So green player would get another turn. So green player can grab this piece of fabric, or he can choose to take another action, which is to move up in front of me. And if he chooses to move up in front of me, he gets buttons. So it's a way to get money. So the way that would work is he can move up 1, 2, 3 spaces and get 3 buttons if he chooses to do so. Or he can simply buy this piece for 1 button. And if he does 1 button in 2 time, he would be on top of me because 1, 2, and he would still get another turn because he happens to be on top. So if green decides to grab that piece, he would still get another turn. But let's say he decides to get money because he really needs buttons to buy more stuff. And that's what he does. He'll go 1, 2, 3. He'll collect 3 buttons, but wait, he went past a button icon on the board. So see all these different button icons? Every time you go past a button icon, your board generates income. So he will generate income equal to the number of buttons on his board. So let's say I decide to also grab money because I'm poor. 1, 2, I would get 2 buttons because I moved in front, but I also passed the button icon. I have 1 button on my board right now, so I get an additional 1 button as income. So you basically have 2 actions. You can either move your piece up forward or grab a piece of fabric. So from here on, people will play, whoever is behind is the active player, and they can buy a piece of fabric or they can move forward. Now, they'll play, they'll grab this piece, let's say, and then move up 1, 2 spaces. I might decide to grab this piece right here, place it like so, and then move up 1, 2, 3 spaces, and then the other player, you get the idea. Now, there is one more thing on the board to notice, and that is these 1 by 1 fabric pieces. So every time it's the first player to go across a fabric piece gets it immediately, which they can use to fill up a spot on their board. So let's say you had a hole someplace. Well, you can go ahead and, if you're lucky enough and planned well enough, to jump over one of these fabric spaces, like this one for instance, you get it immediately. You can put it on your board and fill up a hole that is in your board so that you don't lose points. And the game also throws a bonus too. If you somehow manage to fill up 7 by 7 squares on your board, it doesn't have to be a perfect square. There can be stuff sticking out of it, but as long as a 7 by 7 space is filled on your board, you get an extra 7 bonus points, which can definitely tilt the game in your favor. So you keep playing until both players reach the middle spot by using up all their time. And if you are and once both players have reached that spot, it is time to calculate points. So you would count up your number of buttons, count up your number of empty spaces, and multiply the number of empty spaces by 2, subtract that from your button count, and that is your final score. If your final score is negative, then so be it. You have negative points, but whoever has the most points is the winner. So that is basically a quick run through of how to play Patchwork. Hope you found that useful. If you're interested in seeing more guides on how to play board games or strategies behind board games, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, have a great day, folks. Bye-bye.